Hello, friends. This is Dave Hurwitz, executive editor at ClassicsToday.com, here with the reissue, and really a handy reissue, actually, of the George Lloyd piano concertos on Lyrita, conducted by the composer and alternately performed with pianist Martin Roscoe and Kathryn Stott, who are quite splendid in this music, with the BBC Philharmonic and the London Symphony Orchestra. There are four of them. And so they're all gathered together here. And, you know, if you like the piano concertos of Bartók or Prokofiev or Barber or Britten or any of those contemporary piano concertos, Shostakovich, you know, name your composer who you like, who wrote piano concertos, you're going to really enjoy these. They are wonderful pieces, really first class. And actually, they explore a certain dimension of the composer that you don't hear as often in the symphonies, and that's the militaristic sort of anguished part of him. It's fascinating, you know, what he found in the piano and in the contrast between piano and orchestra. You know, Lloyd was not himself a pianist; he was a violinist, actually, and so he hesitated writing piano concertos for quite a long time until his wife, who was a piano aficionado, finally pushed him into doing it. And once he did it, he found out that he really enjoyed the medium, because he wrote four of them between 1962 or 1963, actually, was when the first was completed in 1970. And boy, is this good music. The first, which is subtitled Scapegoat, was written for John Ogden, who premiered it. And actually, John Ogden and the composer worked together for a decade or two. And so Ogden was a promoter of Lloyd's music, which actually helped him quite a bit. There is nothing like, if you're a composer, that is, writing a virtuoso concerto and finding a virtuoso willing to play it. It's so much easier to do that, to gain popularity and some recognition, than to write a symphony. And so this first concerto, for example, was quite well received when John Ogden first played it. And it gave the composer's reputation something of a boost, because by this time he'd already written, I guess he was on his seventh symphony, I think, when Scapegoat came out. So he already was a symphonist of, you know, considerable ability. But the seventh symphony is a dark, often, you know, even tragic work, and so is the first concerto. The title probably doesn't do it any favors. Let's face it, Scapegoat. You know, I mean, it's like, yeah, okay, not the most resonant image that comes to mind when you think of a piano concerto. Let's not kid ourselves. But what he was thinking of course, was World War II and conflict and the scapegoating of various people for various reasons, whether in the larger political sense or in the smaller personal sense. And the result is a very gripping and dramatic piano concerto in one big movement. It ends quietly, which is, of course, the kiss of death. So it's a first half piece that you sort of end the first half of the concert on. It's not like, you know, going to bring them to their feet screaming. Although I got to tell you, the ending, even though it's quiet, is very exciting. I mean, there's struggle right up to the very end, and wonderful thematic ideas, and it's all just very concentrated and well-shaped. It lasts 25 minutes. The second concerto dates from 1965. Let's see. That has a much more conventionally triumphant conclusion, but it's also full of angst and clangor and it's just wonderful in a good sense. I mean, it's turbulent. It gives the piano something to react against. That's the point. I mean, you really get a sense with the piano and orchestra and the interaction between them that you've got two protagonists, and they're sometimes opposed and sometimes working together, but there's a real struggle going on. And frankly, that is the basis of the word concerto. It's from concertare, to strive together in the Italian. And that's what a concerto is, after all. The third concerto from 68, I think it was 68, yes, is in three movements. It's Lloyd's first sort of big three-movement standard form concerto, but it's a big work. It's 48 minutes long. It's as long as like a Brahms concerto. And the center piece is a big, I think it's 18 minutes, I'll tell you, around about 18-minute, like funeral march type slow movement. It's just a lento. It's marked. It's 19 minutes and 36 seconds. And the finale is also 17 minutes. But it's amazing how energetic the music remains. Even that big, long central movement, I mean, it's really, really gripping. And the orchestration is marvelous. I mean, it really sounds glowing and atmospheric. And Lloyd just knew how to hit the emotions correctly in his orchestral works. I mean, that is accurately. He judges these things very, very well. And the amount of fast to slow and loud to soft, his sense of timing is usually excellent, and it really is in these works. The fourth concerto from 1970 is much more lighthearted. It's from the same time as his Ninth Symphony, which is the Ninth Symphony is just a joy. It's one of those sort of lighthearted ninths, and the fourth is somewhat similar there as well. I mean, it was first performed by Kathryn Stott, Kathryn Stott. I mean, excellently, and I believe it was released on Conifer, if I'm not mistaken. I'm like trying to see here if it was Lloyd Music. Well, Lloyd owns the copyright and all that stuff, so they don't have to talk about how it was originally released. But that's my recollection. And then maybe it came out on Albany. It bounced around a bit. So it's really good that they were able to get them all. The Lloyd Foundation was able to get all of these things and release them as a set. The whole edition is coming out, and it's just great stuff. And the performances, as I said, are superb. The sonics are great, and you really should hear these. So keep on listening, friends. Thanks so much for joining me. Take care.